on the phone. It is a pleasure to welcome to the program Doren. He is Lee. What is your YouTube channel?
It's How the World Works on YouTube. I appreciate for having me on, and congratulations for your 1-year anniversary.
Oh, thank you very much. Lee contacted me on Twitter. He heard that I was arguing with libertarians, and I was happy to have a libertarian on who I think is a little bit more assured in terms of their position than some of the people who have called into the program. So, Lee. How do you want to start this? You want to tell me what I have? You want to tell me what libertarianism
Let
is?
me tell you why. Let me tell you why I contacted you. I mean, I saw you having discussions with other people who were libertarians, or at least considered them some, and consider themselves to be libertarians. And I just didn't think it was as productive to kind of explain what it means to be a libertarian. There's always been a libertarian joke going that if two libertarians agree on anything, both are equally assured that the other is sold out. So, I'm sure some libertarians that are listening right now might disagree whether or not I'm truly a pure libertarian. But if you want to ask any questions, I'll be happy to provide specifics on what libertarianism is.
Well, I'll tell you. Let's even jump ahead from that. I saw the last video you did was critiquing Annie. Is it?
Annie Leonard.
Annie Leonard.
She does the story of stuff, and I just kind of created a hobby of just kind of responding to some of her stuff because she gets a lot of views, and I figured it would, be nice to have the alternative side to that.
And the latest one was the story of, was it money or
story of broke? Story of broke. Her idea was that too much money has been invested in dirty energy, subsidies and dirty energy, and therefore we should subsidize the clean economy. And my point of view was we shouldn't do subsidies at all.
Right.
Then she basically said we're not broke.
One of the refrains that you kept using multiple times, in which I've heard libertarians say quite a bit, is that that government shouldn't pick winners and losers.
Yes.
And my feeling is that that's impossible. How am I wrong?
Are you saying because of the default? Are you saying because the default is that somebody is going to end up winning, and if they do nothing, some people will inevitably be better? Is that what you're arguing?
I'm saying that there is no way to run a society that doesn't pick winners and losers.
Well, my position is that individuals, when they go to the market or when they voluntarily talk with one another, they're making decisions on their own on the best services and goods in their particular lives, and whatever those decisions are should be the determining factor on what goods and services are going to be successful and what companies are going to be successful, rather than having politically connected companies or through the political system pay off politicians and then have those politicians say, you know what, these are good industries, and we're going to then take tax dollars and invest, as they always say, they use the word investment, in these particular industries that we like. When truthfully, it's because, they often get benefits from, they benefit the politicians then throw them back some money, and it doesn't help the economy as a whole, and it doesn't help individuals at all. And so I would much rather have individuals deciding amongst themselves at the marketplace
but there is
how to make.
But there is a third option, isn't there, Lee? I mean,
Sure.
There is a third option, which is that government invests in certain industries that would be helpful for the country. For instance, or government subsidizes certain industries. For instance, when the government decided to organize how we dole out the broadcast system. Now, I may take issue with some of the ways that they did this, the spectrum, but they allowed for radio frequencies to function, right? Because otherwise, they would be trampling all over themselves. Or when they leased out the airways.
You're in radio, so you're under radio, so you understand the spectrum probably better than most people, and that the spectrum, by definition, is somewhat limited. But what's happened with the expansion of media from the internet and even the ability to further segment the light wave spectrum, basically, which is part of radio, you're able to get more diversity and less interference. And so what you're really doing is you're creating an ability to have more of a market, where the government doesn't have to really pick.
But absence government regulation to maintain net neutrality, you would have that would slowly go away, wouldn't it?
No, that I don't accept. What you're having is you got to break it up in a couple separate instances. One is broadcast, like television, the main channels, and radio, which is the spectrum. Then you have cable, which is
No, but I'm
in
talking about the
theory,
internet. I mean, we jumped over to the internet, and without government intervening, we would have simply the capacity of companies that have monopolies on this, or have at least limited monopolies, which they said they needed to grow. We would have certain things have a certain bar to entry. For instance, maybe my show would cost a lot more for me to get the bandwidth than the competing political show from Comcast or something like that.
As far as I know, it had. See, the concern with someone like me, and I'm sure many libertarians with something like net neutrality, is that the means of enforcing it is through the FCC. And the FCC has traditionally done a lot of things that even progressives would certainly not agree with, such as restrictions on language, restrictions on other things. And when you give them the foot in the door and say, we're going to give you a certain amount of power to regulate this minute section of the internet, they always benefit by expanding their role and creating problems that aren't currently there. A better solution, and I don't even have that much of a problem with the pay scales. It would certainly benefit many types of gamers, for example. They might use a lot of bandwidth. They may take up the bandwidth from other people. And so if you're going to say that we're going to segment this off and make those people who are using it much more than everyone else pay a little bit more so they can get faster speeds and better access, I don't have that much of a problem.
Well, that's actually, but that's not the issue. The issue is that the essentially the people who control the pipes could actually, if they had their own content going through those pipes, they could favor their content. But it brings up the point which I originally made, and we sort of glossed over to a certain extent,
of picking winners and losers.
Of picking winners and losers. I think from my experience in talking with libertarians, I accept the fact that we're going to need some organizing principles in society, and so I accept the fact that sometimes I'm not going to like those mechanisms. But we need to influence them in certain ways so that we get certain desired outcomes. It seems to me that libertarians feel that we can live in a society where government never picks winners and losers, and I still have seen absolutely zero evidence that that's possible.
Well, we might be we're kind of talking past each other when you're talking about net neutrality. I don't see that as picking winners and losers. I'm seeing that as we don't want the government stepping in because the FCC has demonstrated throughout decades or whatever that it's overstepped its bounds on what people want it to do. When you have it regulating certain types of speech, you can't.
But you're not making a libertarian philosophical argument. You're simply saying that you don't have trust in any type of government agency to do anything correctly.
I say that
accurate?
An accurate statement would be that most government agencies achieve the opposite result of what well-intentioned sponsors want them to have, and that we want a certain goal, we don't want X to happen, but we're going to put these bureaucrats or agencies in charge of fixing this problem, and then it creates problems that are ultimately worse. So I'm willing to accept imperfections in society as they exist. I don't believe in utopia. I'm willing to accept certain imperfections in society for the fear, and I think justified fear, that worse problems will result if we have the government stepped in as the arbiter of
Why do you think these governmental agencies do things incorrectly? I mean, so you accept in a perfect world that government agencies could have a process, but you feel that in practice they don't get it right. Is that accurate? If that's the case, why do you think that they fail in their missions?
Well, their incentives are often never aligned with what their job is. They get rewarded for. I mean, you've brought up the FDA for a very long time. I don't want to go way off topic if you want to stay in this, but many government agencies, their incentives often are completely perverse from what you want them to do. What
is their incentives?
Well, I'll give you an example. Like with the FDA, the FDA is a really good example where the incentive for the FDA is to keep almost all drugs as long as possible off the market, because they will get immediately the worst press ever if a drug comes out that is going to harm people. So they will save as many lives as possible. And so they will do everything they can to keep drugs off the market. Now, if that drug is good and it's going to save people, that's really bad. That does a lot of harm to society. But we can show specific examples where the FDA will save lives, like I always forget it. The birth drug that was done went through Europe and caused all these birth defects.
Yes.
In the United States,
No.
the FDA kept
you're
it off the market.
Phthalimide.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
There was a drug that the FDA kept it off the market in the United States, saved a lot of babies, and then in Europe it was released and created a lot of birth defects. And that was a great example of the FDA working. But then there are other examples where the FDA has been a disaster by keeping really good drugs that were proven to have saved lives, like beta blockers, kept them off the market for about a decade, and then they brag beta blockers is going to save about 10,000 lives a year, and you're like, gee, does that mean you basically killed 100,000 people over that decade that could have gotten this drug that would have saved people? And the incentive is, and this goes back to the incentive of the agencies, is that their incentives are not necessarily to do what's best for the public on the net benefit, but to make sure that they personally are not going to be harmed in the press for bad decisions and stuff like that.
Are you actually saying that you think that the incentive structure on the FDA is a function of the press they're going to receive?
Not just the press. It's the function
You
of
don't think that
the
the real, to the extent that the FDA does things that are incorrect, you don't think it's a function of their corruption because of the revolving door with corporate industry?
Oh, it absolutely is. No. What you're saying is not mutually exclusive. I totally agree with what you're saying.
You're saying that the FDA is overcautious because they're afraid of getting bad press if the drug that they approve kills people.
That's indisputable.
Well,
the FDA. Well, listen, because listen. Nobody will ever punish the FDA for keeping, exception of maybe libertarians, but no one will ever yell at the FDA for saying, you kept a good drug off the market, and look at all those invisible lives that.
But do you think that if it was really sure that it was a good drug, as opposed to the chance that it could also kill people, that they would still keep it off the market? I mean, in other words, you're saying that they're erring on the side of caution not to kill people, and that is problematic.
On a net, well, I gave you an example. I give you an example where the FDA has done things that are very good, and I've given you examples where the FDA has failed.
But that's not there's no argument there to abolish it. So, I mean, I guess my point is, let's get back to this. Winners and losers. Give me an example of a government that does not choose winners and losers by definition of simply existing. In other words, you can tell me that consumers can go into a marketplace and make their determination, but if I tell you that a government has built roads, I can tell you, I can project out as to what industries are going to have a benefit from that, and what industries won't. If there's a highway system, I can tell you that Walmart is going to do better than a local store.
That's a fact. No, I concede that. That's not. No, I absolutely concede what you're saying. Is that there's some instances where some companies may benefit a little bit better than others. What I have a major problem with which I described in the video, which obviously people can't see, yet, but is the direct subsidies, because politicians have determined that this company is good, we like what it's doing, and therefore we are going to give direct subsidies to that company and benefit it over.
But don't you understand that if we build a highway system with tax dollars, we are subsidizing a company, let's say like Walmart, that chooses to keep rolling warehouses as opposed to actually building warehouses? You don't see that as a direct subsidy?
But what you're doing is you're making an argument for privatized roads, which, I mean, you're kind of going far further than I am. I mean,
well, no, because I'm not making an argument for privatized roads. Because Lee, the problem with privatized roads is that if you don't live in an urban center, you won't get a road.
Right, but I mean, you're making an example of a road that would directly benefit Walmart over other companies, and I'd be very happy if you're arguing for Walmart paying for those roads. I'd be completely happy with that.
All right. So, but I'm still trying to get to the nub of show me a government that existed in the world ever, that exists today or in history, that didn't choose winners and losers by the very nature of the fact that a government, in any time society is organized, almost in any way, there are winners and losers who will necessarily be chosen. And that's the premise, because once we get to that premise, if we could agree on that, which I don't think we can, but if we could agree on that, then the question becomes, which should we choose? Which winners and which losers should we choose? But you don't even believe that there should be, that you believe that it's possible that there could be a government that doesn't make any winners or losers.
No, see, I'm not trying to reach for utopia here. My goal is that at the maximum extent possible, the government should allow individuals to voluntarily. And I'm not.
But what is the maximum extent possible? I mean, see, my point is that you cannot. Where you decide is the maximum extent possible is different from where I decided. And if we both agree that it's simply a question of
well, do you believe in direct subsidies to companies? Okay, well, let's start with examples. Do you believe in direct subsidies to companies?
I don't think there's a difference between a direct subsidy or an indirect subsidy. I mean, I think that yes. I think that yes.
There's a massive difference.
No, I don't think there is. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you're either subsidized or you're not. And that government subsidizes via tax expenditures, via the infrastructure choices it makes, via the size of its military, via where it's going to provide regulation and where it doesn't.
Now, wait. See, when you're getting into the military, that's a totally different issue.
Why?
Because the military is basically created to fix the free rider problem of a private establishment which wouldn't function.
I'm sorry, what? Say that again?
Okay, there are many different types of libertarians. Okay, I'm not one of the ones who believes we should have a private military. And one of the reasons why I'm against a private military, among other things, is that you have a free rider problem. Of the military is, in theory, supposed to protect the entire society as a whole. And if you're protecting the entire society as a whole, you have a massive problem with the fact that it's in my best interest to have you pay it for it, Sam. I'll have you foot the bill because I'm going to get the benefit no matter what.
Right.
And that's why you have a military, because if it's produced at all, we are all going to receive, in theory, the benefit of it.
Isn't the government choosing winners and losers when it determines what the size of the military is going to be?
Well, explain that, because I'm missing.
In other words, we don't necessarily have to have a military that is twice the size of the rest of the world's combined, but it certainly helps certain industries.
The industries that like say like a military producing industry that produces for the government. Is that what you're referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's a company that benefits directly from. I mean, they produce the tanks or whatever that the military purchases.
Well, that's right. I mean, but don't you see that as our tax dollars subsidizing a business? That isn't necessarily the case.
No, that's absolutely an example.
Well, okay. So what I'm asking you, we keep going around in circles here, Lee. Give me an example. Where is this line? Tell me the line where it's the maximum amount of, because I don't want to we keep going in the circle. I want to know, paint for me the government that does not pick winners or losers, or if you think that it's at a certain line, tell me where that line is.
Okay, well, I think the line should be the example of police, military, courts, and the Constitution that's enumerated, which provides other agencies. And once you get at that point, then I don't believe that the government should then be just taking tax dollars and saying, "I like this company."
How big should the military be?
It depends.
How
on
big should the police force be? Should when you fund the courts? Do you know what percentage of, for instance, do you know what percentage of court litigation in this country is business to business?
I actually don't. I don't know that number.
We're in the 90s in terms of percentage. Okay. That doesn't benefit me.
Why would it not? No, this is actually important. I actually want to hear this. Why do you think that would not benefit you?
It doesn't benefit me. I don't care. Why should I spend my tax dollars to uphold the property rights of these businesses or their perception of their property rights?
No, but this is I actually find this fascinating. So your argument is that because a court decision is going on someplace else in society, that you're not indirectly affected by what's taking place? Because, say, for instance, if a company
I'm suggesting
has a
that we
contract,
make decisions, that we
this is
pick
important.
winners and losers.
I'll
Wait,
answer the question why I think that's important to you.
I'm
Because if you have
making
two
a
companies-
suggestion to you that your line in the sand is completely arbitrary.
Of course, well, the Constitution was written to just enumerate the maximum amount of extent of government necessary for a free society.
So you're
And
saying
so
that we should stop at where the government, what the Constitution says, but the Constitution says nothing about what type of subsidiary court system we should have, how much it should be in service of business. It says nothing about the size of our military. My point is that you are just arbitrarily deciding, based upon your own notion as to where, what constitutes the maximum amount of freedom from government. And I'm saying that that's a completely arbitrary, simply an arbitrary choice. There's no philosophical basis on that. It's completely arbitrary. And it just so happens that...
you brought up another important point, because there are two types of libertarians. There's a libertarian who believes in the non-aggression principle, which I personally don't. So if any libertarians are listening right now, they're probably like, Lee's not a libertarian because he doesn't believe in the non-aggression principle, which just basically means any exertion of force, it's a moral issue, any exertion of force from one person to another is just wrong. My view is I'm looking for what creates a beneficial result of the maximum amount of individual freedoms possible with the maximum amount of individual responsibility, and can lift up people out of poverty and create a better society based on historical examples. And so,
give me a historical example of what you're talking about. What society is that you're talking about functions in this way?
What do you mean functions in this way? I'm talking about the United States. I'm talking about Hong Kong. I'm talking about Singapore. I'm talking about actual countries. The United States has great examples, especially throughout the United States history, where we've been able to alleviate millions of people up out of poverty by having, for the most part, a free enterprise system.
When was that?
For most of America, look, we're certainly moving.
You have a problem with Social Security?
Do I have a problem with it? I think it's a bad investment. I don't necessarily have.
You know that right now today, if we were to get rid of Social Security and Medicare, we would double the amount of poor in this country. That when we instituted Social Security in the 30s, it took 2/3 of our elderly out of poverty.
When did I say that we should eliminate it outright? I didn't say that. I'm saying it's a bad investment. Especially for the long term. In fact, you could invest in T-bills.
Worked for almost half of our country's history.
No, I'm answering your question. We could invest in T-bills, which is basically the same thing, and you come out with a better investment because of the tax liability. I mean,
we have invested in T-bills. That's where the Social Security Trust Fund is. It's in the T-bills right now.
No, right, but you still end up paying a certain amount of tax. Our tax system is perverse. That's kind of a separate issue.
All right.
But my point is that for young people coming in, they're paying for a future system that realistically is not. If they voluntarily chose, they could have other safe investments that would be simply better.
Well, Social Security is not an investment. It's Social Security is retirement insurance. But all right, Lee, look, we should do this again sometime. It's been interesting, but I got to move on. But I appreciate your taking the time to have this conversation.